a massive Halo leak has just hit the internet, and the backstory drama behind it is somehow crazier than the files within. We'll talk all that and more in today's video. It's been a weird few days for the Halo community, and to be honest, I went back and forth on whether I should make this video, not only because I'm enjoying my post-Christmas break, but also because most of the news today involves community members who have been working for free, trying to bring more Halo content into the hands of us, the players. On that note, I've decided not to include specific screenshots or accounts involved, and I think that's probably the best for everyone. I've seen a lot of people either delete posts or state that they want to move on from the situation, so I'll do my best to help that while also keeping you up to date on the news. So, what is going on? Well, first I need to explain the Digsite team. As explained by then 343 Industries on Halo Waypoint, the Digsite team is a group of volunteer community modders who are working, or at least were working, to make previously cut or unfinished content playable within the Master Chief Collection, at least mostly. As an example, Digsite recently made it possible to play the cut campaign mission Earth City, which was famously shown at E3, within the Master Chief Collection if you disable cheats and download the appropriate files. That's all well and good. There was lots of work to be done, but it seems like things were not quite so rosy behind the scenes, as two things have happened. One, there seems to be somewhat of an exodus, or at least a real general unhappiness from the Digsite crew towards Microsoft and Halo Studios, i.e. the new 343 Industries. And two, a massive amount of content which the Digsite crew was working on has been released freely to the internet. Almost 90 gigabytes worth of content. I've heard it's about 81 completely unzipped. Either way, the general consensus, including from those on the team, is that this essentially spells the end of the Digsite program. And that's really not surprising. Now, listen, I don't know who leaked all these files to the internet. Presumably it was someone on the team, but maybe it wasn't. I say presumably because Microsoft and 343, or rather Halo Studios, didn't do it. The Digsite team had access, but again, we don't know, and certainly if it was someone on the team, that doesn't mean it was the team as a whole, of course. Nor does it mean it was necessarily one of the most recent departures. Again, people are citing long-standing issues between Microsoft and Digsite regarding a lack of pay, which I'll get to in a second, and perhaps just a general fickleness on Microsoft's part. But I gotta say, I'm really disappointed to see these files leak. There's a lot of criticism to be leveled at Microsoft and Xbox Game Studios, but there aren't many corporations which embrace modders and modded content in this way. I think of how the Halo team has worked with Sins of the Prophets in the past. Again, for better or for worse, this was a pretty cool project regardless of how things turned out, but whether warranted or not, this was certainly a violation of trust, and Microsoft definitely recognizes that there's a major difference between having a small group of vetted modders looking over your files with releases approved and vetted by higher ups versus all the files just being out there on the internet, because these game files could have any sort of confidential information regarding how the game's run, the Xbox pipeline, exploits within the game. I mean, you can imagine there could be things which are either harmful or at least embarrassing, and Xbox will want to have a say on what goes out wide, and now they no longer can. All right, so I don't agree with the leak, but what's the rest of the story? Well, I alluded to it earlier. The Digsite team was not happy with their treatment by Microsoft. A lot of people were saying that after some successful releases, there were some pretty high expectations regarding work, and I'll admit, I have some mixed feelings on here. For one, I generally do not believe community modders should expect paid for work by the developers of the game they're modding. I'm active in a ton of retro gaming spaces. I use tools like RetroArch, Retro Achievements, game recompiles, community remasters, content restoration mods. All of these things are done by the community because they appreciate the game. Now, don't crucify me until I am able to get through the rest. However, I don't think people should look at this role, which was kind of always explicitly laid out as a volunteer one, as an opportunity to make money. I also don't think there should be an assumption that any forger who does community work with 343 should be paid. And when you're dealing with a company as labyrinthine and as against hiring as Microsoft is, I think that sort of increases the unlikeliness of community hiring. So notwithstanding what I just said about community members and pay expectations, the Halo situation is admittedly a little different. This was a selective group. Microsoft, or rather Halo Studios, may have been putting pressure on the group to get content out. And what I think is most important, community editions are really the only thing Halo fans are getting right now, which is new. Ongoing support for the MCC has dropped completely. Halo Infinite is mostly down to new Forge maps and stuff. So I think 343 probably should have considered setting up an incentive program. I think there may have been incentives, like I wouldn't be surprised if community members were invited to Halo events or whatever else, but getting invited to Halo events doesn't help pay rent if you are doing a lot of work on the mod during a given month. And that's what people were saying. To get new content out, or rather old content looking new enough to be released, they were working hours approaching an actual job. And again, I don't think this justifies the leak, because the leak has now made all unfinished work essentially useless. Very little chance I think Halo continues these community efforts, and it's ruined things in the future. The right approach, if you don't like how you're being treated by Microsoft, you don't like being used for your free labor, which I totally understand, is to quit. And by all accounts, that is what the vast majority of people in this situation did, other than the individual, whoever it was, who leaked the files. Anyway, a lot of this just reminds me of the state Halo's in right now. And again, no shade to these modders at all, but I just think, like, if Nintendo offered files for Super Mario 64, people would be paying for access. Halo is just so mad right now, and this is a tough look for Microsoft and the new Halo Studios. So they're burning goodwill, and I think it's extra difficult because much of the goodwill generated by this point has been due to community efforts in Forge, in these cool content restoration pieces. But there's been lots of controversy about this online. I'm sure there'll be some in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Keep it respectful. Again, support these individual modders, especially the ones who felt like they had to leave the project because they had no other option. And at the end of the day, regardless of how it turned out, the Digsite crew did such hard work, did such good work, and really, it was all for us, the community, who have been dreaming of new content from essentially our youth. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours, and I'll see you next time.